Alright, Josh here, and welcome to another Ultra Series team discussion. Now today, we're actually going to look at two different versions of this XL team, but there is only like one difference between them, so that's why I'm covering it in the same video. So Xerneas Lunala. It's been popular throughout 2019. In Sun Series, Ashton and Jeremy's team was super good, very dominant, really good team, and it was only made better in Moon Series when Lunala got its Z move, which puts, Kuroko Dusk main Necrozma, which put a lot of pressure onto Xerneas. And, Xerneas covered Lunala a bit as well. Obviously, Yveltal was a huge threat for Lunala. Xerneas, if it gets boosted, +2 Moonblast, that thing's down. So, yeah, it's a good core. And I'm not surprised to see it back for Ultra Series. So, the first Pokemon we're going to be looking at is the Mega Pokemon, that is Lucario. And this thing is a bit of a beast. I mean, it's a glass cannon, obviously. The defenses are a bit lackluster, but it's great speed start, fantastic special attack, and obviously really good attack. You could run this physical or special. Both are definitely viable and both are good. Both have the merits. Adaptability is amazing. Great ability, because even if you get intimidated, you're still going to be OHKOing stuff. I would imagine Neg 1 Meteor Mash still OHKO Xerneas, and maybe unless it was super bulky, but I still think it would. And obviously like a Neg 1 close combat would be decking Incineroar still, I think. So obviously that's really good. Obviously the downsides of that, obviously close combat, we all know, drops the defenses, but Lucario is just, it's going to go down after a couple of hits anyway. Meteor Mash, good move. You got that 20% chance to raise your attack as well. But it is 90% accurate, so we all know that means it's 50% accurate, so do be wary of that. Don't put all your eggs in the Meteor Mash hitting basket. Protect, staple. You could run Detect instead. I'm pretty sure it gets Detect. Yep. You could run that instead if you're worried about imprison stuff, but that's really not that common. Extreme Speed is something you should be a little bit wary of on Lucario as well. But obviously then they have to drop one of these moves. I think Follow Me is a really good one for Lucario. It could literally save you Xerneas, just a quick Follow Me to take away. Obviously, especially if you're going against like a Mega Gengar, you can just redirect those poison type attacks, and obviously it's going to do absolutely nothing. So if you're running a special variant, obviously you'd want Flash Cannon over Meteor Mash, which obviously is 100% accurate, not quite as strong, but you do get the chance to lower special defense, and you would obviously run Focus Blast over close combat. Focus Blast is 70% accurate, which means it's 10% accurate. I probably would I'd personally rather run physical, because Focus Blast is just, it's Focus Blast. We all know what Focus Blast does. Misses. I suppose you could put some cheeky techs on this, like Ice Punch. Low Kick is not a bad one actually. If you really don't want to use close combat and drop your defenses, Low Kick, obviously with a lot of Pokemon being really heavy, would do a lot of damage to like Primal Kyogre and Groudon. That would obviously OHKO stuff like Stack Attacker, Heatran. Wouldn't do as much to Incineroar as close combat would, but still viable. Extreme Speed, I think I mentioned that. The other one is Bullet Punch, but I think I'd probably run Extreme Speed over Bullet Punch because it's got higher priority basically. So interesting, I was just looking down. It gets stuff like Heal Pulse and Helping Hand, but to be honest, I don't think those are too valuable, because like I say, this is meant to just... Quick Guard is something that could be really good as well. I could see, like, if you dropped Protect, Quick Guard could be really good. If you're running Special as well instead of Bullet Punch or Extreme Speed, you could use Vacuum Wave. But I don't think it can't really be like too much of a support Pokemon. It could run Aura Sphere over Focus Blast, but obviously it's nowhere near as strong as Focus Blast or Close Combat. But I won't have Heal Pulse on or Helping Hand really, because it is a glass cannon. Follow Me is just good for this last ditch, like I'll quickly take an attack just to save my Xerneas before I go down, for example, or my Lunala or whatever. You're running next to it if that's what you want to do. Obviously Lucario will probably struggle against stuff like Groudon, even stuff like Xerneas. If your opponent Xerneas, you've not managed to KO it and it's got good support like Smeargle or Amoonguss or something, Lucario's not going to be taking many Dazzling Gleams or Moonblasts. Probably go down to a Moonblast, might even go down to a Dazzling Gleam, to be honest, at +2. So try and get, if you're going against an opposing Xerneas, try and get that damage off early. It is kind of good though, like if you lead like Lucario, Xerneas, Let's put like a super standard lead. Your opponent leads Xerneas Incineroar. You can pretty much just Geomancy and Meteor Mash. Like pretty much whatever the outcome, you're either OHKOing their Xerneas or you're getting your Geomancy up, which is really nice. So that's definitely a good option. So yeah, I think Lucario is a really good partner for Xerneas. Obviously, you can protect it from stuff like stack attack. You can just deck it with close combat, and you can also threaten opposing Xerneas with Meteor Mash. And you know, you've got that follow me in case you want to redirect anything. Obviously, taking away poison attacks that do nothing to Lucario is great. Clear Smog especially, but also, you know, protects Xerneas from Mega Gengar, which is really nice. Then we've obviously got the Deer itself, and it's just 252, 252. I've noticed a lot of people drop in to modest and a bit bulkier. I still kind of like timid because I like knowing that I'll outspeed Lunala in case it tailwinds and I Geomancy. You know, that's kind of always nice. But I think just from playing this format, I've been playing a lot of Xerneas teams. You really need a lot of support for Xerneas in this, more so than you did Sun and Moon, I think. I mean, in Sun and Moon series, you could pretty much get away sometimes. Not all the time. You could sometimes get away with just running Incineroar and Xerneas as your Xerneas mode. You know, fake out Geomancy. But this, you know, you got fake out Geomancy, you've got follow me Geomancy. I'm guessing this Amoonguss has Rage Powder, and you've got the Psychic Terrain to block your opponent's priority as well. So, you know, Xerneas is really well protected on this team. Obviously, it's well protected on this team, but there are always ways around Xerneas. Obviously, like a fast Taunt can stop it Geomancying. Haze is always a good one. You can run that on Tapu Fini or Crobat. Those are probably the best two Haze users. Slowing it down with Icy Winds is good. Trick Room's a good option just to obviously flip it on the head, make Xerneas the slowest thing on the field. Clear Smog from Amoonguss is a great one as well. Obviously, these are if you're going to run Xerneas, these are the things that you need to think about. Like, okay, how do I make sure my opponent doesn't Haze? How do I make sure my opponent doesn't Clear Smog me? Do I have enough redirection? Do I have my own Taunter? You can always Prankster Taunt a Taunt user. Like you can use Thunderous or something to Prankster Taunt an opposing Crobat so you don't get taunted or hazed. Stuff like that, just really think about when you're running Xerneas. So obviously Xerneas hits super hard when it's boosted, but there's some things it's not hitting as hard anymore. Kyogre gets that special defense boost a bit. Now it's primal. You're not doing as much damage to that, so it can still, and it does hit back hard still. So don't be expecting to get OHKO Kyogre anytime soon. Primal Groudon is now resisting fairy type attacks because of that added fire type, which, you know, it really needs. I think that was the only thing, like in Sun and Moon series, I thought Groudon was like alright, but it was just, you know, like a +2 Moonblast could just, unless you were running careful, pretty much in like max special defense, match HP, you were going down, and that's not ideal at all, because you're wasting it. You can't invest much into your attack power or anything. But now Groudon can tank those hits and hit back super hard with Precipice Blades and Fire Punch, or Eruption if it's special, but if you're boosted, Eruption's not too much of a worry. Obviously we've got Intimidate to try and, you know, slow down Groudon. There's a few Megas that do a good chunk. Mega Kangaskhan does a lot. Mega Metagross is something just to be very careful of. Obviously this again has Incineroar to try and intimidate it after it's Mega Evolved. Obviously it's got Clear Body before it does. And Lunala does a good job against Mega Gengar as well. Against Mega Metagross as well. But, you know, it could be supported by something that scares away Lunala. So those are definitely ones to watch out for with Xerneas. And obviously, I can't believe I forgot this one. Obviously, Mega Gengar is a good one against Xerneas, and that does threaten Lunala as well. Although Lunala can take a Shadow Ball and hit back. Lucario protects Xerneas from the Sludge Bombs, and Stack Attacker is another one as well. But again, Lucario covers that. Bronzong is one that can set Trick Room and Gyro Ball Xerneas. You don't want to be taking that, but Lunala should be able to OHKO Bronzong. So you see these three have like, especially Lunala and Lucario, you know, really support Xerneas like very well. They cover those common checks to Xerneas, so that's really good. Lunala's the next one. Again, we're just timid. 252, 252. I think I always run Lunala like this. I think it's probably the best. Obviously, there's the mixed, like the Trick Room ones, the ones that you have Trick Room and Tailwind. Just be wary of those. Sometimes Lunala's a bit like unpredictable. Is it going to Trick Room? Is it going to Tailwind? You just kind of have to go off your opponent's team. Like, you know, are they mid-speed Pokemon. It's kind of hard when they're like mid-speed, but if they've got a lot of, if they've got like more than two, like say they've got like a Mega Mawile or something, it's like, okay, this and there's no other Trick Room user, it's like, okay, this Lunala's gonna have Trick Room, so you can kind of just go off that. Wide Guard, yeah, that's becoming very popular, and it's understandable why. You are dropping Protect for Wide Guard, but I mean, obviously you block Precipice Blades, Origin Pulse, Water Spout, Hyper Voices for Mega Salamence, stuff like that. I think that's a good move to have on Lunala. And paired with Lele, Psyshock is obviously doing a lot in terrain. Moongeist Beam is good. This is where the Z move is. We all know how strong Lunalium Z is. A very strong move. A couple of things I have seen on Lunala that caught me off guard. Obviously, like Protect, you can usually expect. If it's not got... Yeah, I mean, it suffers from 4 move syndrome a little bit. Like, I wish there was more room on Lunala for extra moves. Maybe you could potentially drop Psyshock on this because you have got Lele, but I mean, it does a lot of damage. It hits Xerneas hard, like opposing Xerneas hard, I suppose, if they're boosted. Roar, I bumped into that. That's still going. I'm not a big fan of that one. Trick Room I mentioned. I didn't actually know it got Will-O-Wisp. That's kind of interesting. But the other one I saw was Icy Wind. Yeah, that was quite a good one. Icy Wind. Icy Wind Lunala. Also, I suppose Hypnosis. You could run Gravity on Lele and Hypnosis. That's something to potentially watch out for. Ways of beating Lunala. Forgot about that. Obviously, like I say, Mega Gengar's a good one, but it is and it isn't. Like, you can Shadow Ball it, but it's not going to OHKO through the Shadow Shield. And this team has, Rage Powder and Follow Me, so, Lunala can just hit your Gengar back. So it's not ideal. I guess the Yveltal is a good one still, but there is that Xerneas support. Opposing Incineroar are good. This team does have obviously Lucario to deal with Incineroar, because if it didn't have Lucario, I can see Incineroar being a bit of a pain for this team. Because Xerneas doesn't like OHKO it can just sit and snarl and stuff. So yeah, that could have been a bit of a problem, but like I say, Lucario deals with that. So yeah, you're probably noticing, as with the Rayouga team, there's a lot of good synergy between just even these three. We've not even got onto the rest, but yeah, that pretty much covers Lunala. I suppose there's always obscure sets you could run into, like Carmine, but I really can't see that doing much. Or the cheeky Focus Blast maybe for opposing Stack Attacker, but obviously with Lucario, it's just not necessary. Incineroar, classic Intimidate support. I like this set, the move spread. Fake Out U-Turn, Snarl, Flare Blitz. I think that's perfect. I guess if you don't want U-Turn or Snarl, one could be dropped for Darkest Lariat. As I said on Wednesday's episode, I don't think Knockoff is particularly great anymore. Darkest Lariat is definitely or Snarl is definitely the dark move of choice. Couldn't think then. Roar obviously is always another one. Taunt you could potentially use as well. But this is just the 236, like classic one with the 50% berry. So, but obviously with Incineroar, the 2 primals, are going to be doing a lot of damage. So you always want to intimidate that Groudon, and just maybe not even bring it against Kyogre unless you desperately need Intimidate. And yeah, that's about. I mean, Incineroar's Incineroar, isn't it? And next up we have the Choice Scarf Tapu Lele. I did say who has this, so I didn't think this was a particularly. It's not my favourite, especially with this team where it's got. It does work on this team, I suppose. Although I wouldn't. Yeah, you can just deck Mega Gengar with the Psychic. It's not actually got Psyshock. It's got Psychic over Psyshock, Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, and Taunt. Well, that's an interesting one. I like the fact they've got Taunt on this one actually, because Taunt. I would honestly, like, if you're gonna build, like, if you really want to build like a proper solid team that has options for everything, Taunt, you need Taunt on something. Obviously a lot of these are running Psyshock over Psyshock, Psyshock over Psychic. Magic Room is very common. So if you're running obviously Xerneas and you bump into an opposing Tapu Lele, I would honestly just presume it's Scarf and just be wary of Magic Room. But one thing you can do, especially with this team, because you've got so much redirection, you could probably get away with still going for the Geomancy and just try and Follow Me and Rage Powder away any attacks. Although it's a bit risky, and you probably will waste both Pokemon doing that. So, but maybe it's worth it if Xerneas is definitely the way to win that matchup. Ways to beat Tapu Lele, like I say, like I said in the Rayouga team, actually, there was a really good one where you could lead Mega Gengar. Like if you're using Scarf Lele, just be careful not to get nuzzled or not to get Icy Winded or Trick Roomed on. Lele obviously does nothing against Bronzong. But I did run into someone leading Lunala Lele the other day, and that was actually really good. That was that covered a lot of stuff, because when I was playing the team, I was like, okay, I'm gonna lead Mega Gengar Bronzong and set Trick Room, or I think I was just gonna Gyro Ball the Lele. But when they led Lele Lunala, it was like, oh god, now I actually can't do that, because Lele just threatens picking up the knockout on Gengar, and Lunala threatens the knockout on Bronzong. So if you're worried about opposing Bronzong's leading, definitely go like Scarf Lele Lunala. That is a good lead. Lele obviously goes down to stuff like a Dragon Ascent from Mega Ray. Maybe Intimidated, it can live 1. Obviously, it depends if it's Life Orb, but if it's Life Orb, you can obviously just Occa with Moonblast. Dazzling Gleam's great against opposing stuff, just to break sashes and shields, I guess. So Scarf Lele, it does have its uses. I don't think, like I said, I don't personally think it's great, just because you can have a solid game plan to stop it. I think Nuzzles or Icy Wind's probably the best way, or Trick Room. But like I said, if Bronzong is probably the most popular Trick Room setter, and Lunala does really threaten that, so you can get it. This has good support for Scarf Lele, and obviously if you really need Lele just to take a load of knockouts, you can always use your redirection options. Obvious as well, like stuff like opposing Lunala are scary for Lele. You can break its Shadow Shield. You could potentially go for a Lunala Speed Tie, I guess. But obviously, like Psychic does cover Xerneas really well as well, taking care of Mega Gengar, taking care of Amoongusses as long as they're not Iapapa. And Moonblast, he's going to OHKO stuff like Mega Salamence, Mega Ray, as long as it's not Focus Sash or Assault Vest. But could probably take a Moonblast. Actually, yeah, Assault Vest Mega Ray can definitely take a Moonblast, because I was trying it and I made a spread that definitely could live it. You're not going to be hitting stuff like Kyogre too hard. You're probably best Moonblasting Kyogre to try and get the special attack drop. Or if you just want Psychic for Water Spout reduced damage, you could just go for that, because of the terrain. It would be obviously hitting harder. I don't think this one, obviously there's no bulk on this, so it's not going to be taking Kyogre's attacks very well. And obviously with the weaker defense stat, Groudon could be a problem. Although Psychic in Psychic terrain against Primal Groudon would probably do a lot, because Groudon's weaker defense, obviously it's special defense, so you could definitely chunk that, because I could see Primal Groudon being a little bit of a pain for this team, especially if it's very bulky. Like, yeah, you can Z-move it, but if you Z-move into a Protect or it gets redirected, you've got to Intimidate it really to stop it from just running over. So yeah, maybe chunking it with Psychic. That's probably why Psychic's on over Psyshock, which does make sense. So yeah, I think actually this Scarf Lele does work actually really well with the rest of the team. And then last but certainly not least, we have the classic support Mushroom Amoonguss with the Occa Berry, which is an interesting one. There's a few different berries you could run. You could run 50% berry. You could run the Iapapa berry, obviously, if you're really struggling with Tapu Lele's Psychic type attacks. You could even run Cobra Berry to take those Dragon Ascents and then potentially Spore the Mega Ray if that's a real problem. But Occa Berry is definitely a good one to use. And this is a classic the classic standard Amoonguss spread, and it's a great one. Like I've used that all the time, and I've never thought, oh, I wish I'd lived this. Like, it's always been great. Could go Sassy over Calm. I usually prefer Sassy just for Trick Room stuff. Amoonguss is a great mon just to chuck on your team for, A, like redirection to support, and B, if you're really worried about your opponent setting up Trick Room, or if you're building a team, you don't have any Trick Room answers, literally just chucking Amoonguss on can really save you in Trick Room just by spamming Spore. Obviously, you have to be careful now of electric terrain and misty terrain. And on the Ryoga team, we saw that Bronzong on that team was Lumberry and had Safeguard, so it's not like you can just Spore that. So yeah, those are just things to watch out for. Yeah, Amoonguss is a great Pokemon to prepare with Xerneas. It's always been very common, and it always will be. Clay Spog, you need it for opposing Xerneas. Things that obviously beat Amoonguss, Groudon is a big one, Mega Salamence is a big one, and Mega Ray is a big one, but that's why I think that Lele does help with that, because you can just Moonblast the Salamence, you can't just Moonblast the Ray, and you can Psychic chunk the Groudon. But yeah, this is obviously great support. So yeah, I actually think this team is really good. Like, when I was just looking at it, it looked a bit weird to me. Like, I was like, these monsters look weird together. But actually, obviously, when we discussed it and I've looked into it now and the moves, like, it's got a lot of coverage and I can see it working really well. One problem I would say that could be hard for this team is Groudon. If it's like Tailwind, if it's like Groudon under Tailwind, and say you haven't managed to get your Xerneas set up, they've denied it, or you haven't managed to get your own Tailwind up, or Lunala's been knocked out and you can't wide guard, Groudon could potentially just like really do like a run over. If it was like physical, and Fire Punch got you a Amoonguss, say you wasted your Occa Berry already, Groudon could be a bit of a pain. But definitely not unbeatable. Like I say, there's definitely ways you can Tailwind against it. You can set up, Xerneas will chunk it. You can Intimidate it. You can Psychic it. I mean, if you can live a Fire Punch or an Eruption as well, you could potentially even Spore it. So there are ways of beating Groudon. Okay, so I did say at the beginning there was 2 variations of this team, and this is the second one. It's actually just Mega Salamence over Mega Lucario. That's the only difference. So you do get some different coverage. You don't get as much. Obviously, Mega Salamence does really well against opposing Amoonguss, if you're obviously worried about that. But I think Lucario has good support for against opposing Amoonguss as well. Obviously, you can Rage Powder, clear Smogs away, but obviously if you get Spored, that's bad. Mega Salamence probably just OHKOs Amoonguss, but it should do. With Double Edge and Hyper Voice, maybe it doesn't OHKO Amoonguss, but it would do an absolute chunk of damage. The classic mixed Salamence, got Tailwind on here as well. You can run Naive, you could run Hasty as well if you kind of want a bit more special defense, but honestly, like, Salamence is going down to Ice Beams, it's going down to Moonblasts and +2 Dazzling Gleams and stuff, so I think Naive is fine. It's nice having a second Tailwinder. If Lunala's got a really bad matchup, you can bring Salamence, and the opposite way around. If you don't want to run physical, mixed, you could run special or physical. If you run special, you can drop Double Edge for Draco Meteor. Obviously, that's good against opposing Mega Rays and opposing Salamence. You could, just completely just wipe out an opposing Salamence just quickly with Draco Meteor. And if you want to run physical, you can run Double Edge and then something else. If you don't want Tailwind on Salamence, you could also run like Dragon Dance Return, make it a little bit bulkier. That could actually work. Like, this team has Fake Out and Rage Powder redirects, and so you could probably get a Dragon Dancer up, and obviously Return over Double Edge. You're not taking the recoil, which is obviously nice, but Double Edge is just so strong. So, and you could always run. I was thinking okay, but if you get rid of Lucario for Salamence, Stack Attacker becomes a bit of a pain. You can run Earthquake, and I would imagine that probably gets Stack Attacker. As long as it's not Sugar Berry, or actually, I'd have to calculate that. You'd have to, obviously, if you're running Earthquake, you'd be full on physical Salamence. You wouldn't run Earthquake mixed. So Salamence is definitely a good one to have as well. Another thing with Salamence as well, it does actually make your Groudon matchup a bit better. Like obviously Lucario, Incineroar, and Amoonguss are all weak to Groudon. Salamence, provides another Intimidate. It's flying, obviously, so ground type moves won't hit it. So that's actually that's a nice little thing to have over Lucario. But there's pros and cons of both, I guess. But yeah, that's about it for this team. I'm actually going to give this team a try myself. Like, it looks actually really fun. Like I said, on paper I thought not sure, but after actually thinking about it, it's it's got a lot of good options, and it seems to have answers for a lot of things. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all in a bit.